My name is David Lee, and the first theory I wanted to explore for this assignment was the self-determination theory, which was initially developed by Edward Deci and Richard Ryan. And since then, scholars from all over the world have refined and elaborated the theory, which is used in a lot of ways to explain how kids are motivated, not just in education, but in sports and religion and health and medicine and parenting and many more different environments. Self-determination theory gives insights to teachers and parents who are often asking themselves and who are often frustrated with how to motivate their students or to try and get kids to work harder in school. So the theory looks at two different types of motivation: autonomous motivation and controlled motivation. Autonomous motivation happens when a person engages in activity with eagerness and choice, and it's comprised of two subtypes. And on the other hand, controlled motivation involves completing a task with a sense of pressure or demand or persuasion, and it also is divided into two subtypes. The two subtypes of autonomous motivation are intrinsic motivation and identified motivation. Intrinsic motivation is when a student is doing a task because it's interesting while satisfying. And this may be a student who chooses to learn the names of presidents in order because it's fun or challenging to him or her. And identified motivation is when internalized extrinsic motivation is involved and a person does something because it's personally important. This can occur when a student chooses to read a book, uh, any book they can get their hands on that has to do with the Civil War, or watch every documentary available on the Civil War because he or she desires to someday be a history teacher. Types of controlled motivation are external motivation and introjected motivation. External motivation, it causes someone to do something simply because they're receiving an award or avoiding punishment, where a student might only read his summer reading because he was getting paid to or he was avoiding getting punished for the summer. Introjected motivation involves a person doing or not doing something mainly because they would feel approved for doing it or guilty or unworthy for not doing it. An example of this might be a student who continues to read books way above their reading level simply because they've been told they're smart, or they might compare themselves to higher achieving siblings. I decided on this as my first theory mainly because I wanted to understand more about what does or does not motivate my students. And upon my research, I saw that both types of motivation lead to learning, but it's actually the quality of the learning that's different. And studies show that students who are autonomously motivated often find learning content interesting and find it personally important, which leads to deeper understanding. They were conceptual learners versus rote learners, whereas students who were motivated by control tend to simply memorize facts rather than try to understand how all the pieces work together. Those who are autonomously motivated found not only that they understood the material at a deeper conceptual level, but oftentimes they were more creative and had a better sense of well-being. And the theory plays a very crucial role in the argument for student-centered classrooms, where students are given some choice in their learning. In these classrooms, teachers work hard to try to understand and acknowledge student perspectives and ideas, and encourage them to solve problems themselves and allow students to make their own choices as often as they can, all at the same time while minimizing rewards, punishments, and controlling language. Researchers also looked into the effect on teachers. Teachers who were told that they would be evaluated based on performance of their kids often found that they were less likely to offer their kids choices. The teachers would use more controlling language like, you have to do this or you can't do that. Teachers were also less likely to let students work towards solving problems and oftentimes just gave them the answers. Teachers would revert back to controlling motivators. Things like negative competition, surveillance, evaluations, and even threats, deadlines and punishments. All those, like rewards, are controlling, and they tend to diminish people's sense of initiation and self-regulation and volition and working because they want to work. Whereas offering the students opportunities to make choices and guide their own activities tend to lead towards a greater sense of autonomy, choice, allowing them to self-regulate the time that they devote to assignments. These are the types of things that increase interest in autonomous motivation. Self-determination theory maintains that self-autonomy is a basic psychological need, something that has to be satisfied before people can actually be motivated or function effectively and be psychologically healthy. And if that's the case, the idea seems a little daunting that teachers would relinquish complete control of their learning to whatever and however the kids choose, but that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. Here's an example of what a teacher could do when introducing a lesson. Knowing that teachers still have to teach the content standards, they can offer their students a choice on how it is that they research the information and present the information. And as long as teachers are activating prior knowledge and teaching the content and making whatever it is that they teach the kids applicable to them, it gives them a sense of purpose. And if teachers can create the hype or get them excited about it, the rest is up to the kids. Give them choices within boundaries. Let them select the tool that they want to use. So if they were to select one of these topics on the Civil War, they have the option to do things digitally, or they can do it by hand, or they can create art or act it out. And before all that, while kids are researching, give them the choice to use a computer, use Google, read articles, or even watch videos on Crash Course. They might even choose to read books and take notes. And when they record the notes, give them a choice. They can use Pages or Word, things that are familiar. They can use notes. They know how to use Google Drive. Most kids do now. They're recording programs like Evernote, or kids might even still choose to use handwritten notes. But as long as they have the choice, there's buy-in. And then eventually, you're going to ask them to create or show what they know. Give them an opportunity. Technology is not always the key. They can act out a scene from the Civil War, or create a reenactment of some sort. They can build models that are accompanied with a handwritten essay or a poster. They can create a PowerPoint or a keynote because they're familiar with it. Or you can introduce them to something new like Prezi, which is a digital poster board. They could use VoiceThread, where they can combine video, photos, and audio to record a presentation. They could create their own cartoon using Powtoons, or they might even create something like I created, an infographic using Piktochart. As long as the students have choice, as long as they are motivated with autonomous motivation, the things that they create are going to be awesome. That's my presentation.